Welcome to the Fantasy Flow podcast. You thought that you weren't going to get an episode this week, but you are. Here we are. It's Austin and Andy, your hosts. We're recording the day after Christmas on the 26th, just at the conclusion of that thrilling Thursday night football game between the Seahawks and the Chicago Bears. 3 field goals were kicked, 0 touchdowns were scored. Andy, how was
Boo.
that?
Boo. Man, I was joining the Bears fans in the stadium. I was booing from my TV like, what
Yeah.
is going on? Both sides of the ball just like oh, that last drive, I look at Marissa, I'm like, we're going to lose this game. We've held them to 3 points the entire game, and this last drive we're going to break. I can just feel it. And luckily we didn't, but man, that was a rough watch. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, my takeaway from that game, and we'll talk about the implications of that game, but really, that game, I just looking at our Seahawks, our beloved Seahawks, and I'm just like, man, this is not a playoff team. Like, this isn't even a team that like loses with pride in the first round like we have in the recent past. Like this isn't even as good as those teams. Like this is really sad. But shout out to the Seahawks defense. I know it wasn't a great opponent, but the defense looked great for 4 quarters. I mean, that is half the game, right? We do have to talk about that side of the ball too, like the fact that we held our opponent to 3 points. That's pretty cool. Um, Andy, do you have any thoughts on that? Or
Yeah. Great defensive effort. It helps that their O-line is just as bad as ours. So
yeah, that's a
that's
great
definitely
point.
was in our favor. And we got to shout out special teams, too. I mean, Myers made both his field goals. We have one of the best punters in the league. It's always fun to see Dixon punt the ball because he knows how to make it turn up in the air in crazy directions. I've seen
Yeah.
it in person. You've seen it in person. I mean, it's fun to watch. So, yeah, shout out to those sides of the ball. But the offense, I don't know. Do you want to take that one away?
Yeah, we controlled the field positioning really well. I think the Bears only had like a couple plays inside of our 50-yard line. So that's huge credit to Michael Dixon and everyone else. Ernest Jones is the leader that this defense needed. And of course, Leonard Williams and everyone else on the defensive line has been holding it down. Yeah, but offensively, I mean, it was announced right before the game that Kenneth Walker has been put on IR. So we expected a big Zach Charbonnet game because that's what he's been giving us in the recent past. But we didn't really get that for whatever reason. And seems like the Seahawks moved the ball pretty well. There wasn't a ton of turnovers. There was one big fumble that we lost. But honestly, I don't know. It was just a really bad Geno game. It just it was just very lackluster. He did not sense pressure in the pocket, and I don't know. I was just pretty disappointed. It's like the last couple games because it has been 2 Seahawks games since we've done a podcast. So I guess I'm kind of including the Vikings result in my analysis. And no one really expected the Seahawks to beat the Vikings, and we put up a good fight against them. So Andy, did you want to talk about that game too?
Sure. Yeah, I was there. So,
Yeah, you were.
I was telling everybody around me, friends before the game, I just want to be close. Win or lose, I just want to have fun and enjoy a good game. And that's what happened. So I don't have a lot of complaints from being there and seeing it. But yeah, I mean, you're right. You can definitely tell Gino is favoring his knee. They were mentioning that before this game against the Bears, that he has a lot of swelling around his meniscus and his knee. And there was one play during this Bears game where he could have easily ran for the first down, and he threw it to JSN in traffic and almost threw an interception because he just didn't trust himself to get those 2 yards that he easily could have got.
Yeah.
So the Vikings game, though, man, that was a fun one. I think our defense kind of fell out of place when they shouldn't have, and then the offense just was often put in really tough spots because of the defense. So that one's a little bit harder to like kind of point a finger to. I know Gino had that terrible pick at the very end, but honestly, the all the momentum had shifted towards Minnesota, and it was pretty grim going
Yeah.
into that position. 0 timeouts, 50 seconds left. They get us down to like we get a false start on our first play on that possession, so we're at like the 5-yard line. It's a tough hill to climb. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Absolutely. Yeah, that Vikings game. I mean, I love the fight that they put up against a really good team. We kept it close. We had the lead in the fourth quarter, and that was almost like sad in a way because it's like, man, we just want it to be close. We just want to be competitive in these games against top competition. And then you actually have a chance to win. And then our hopes get a little too high. And then, of course, we lose the game. And so that was just pretty
Right.
sad. But, and then, yeah, what was even more sad was finding out that the Rams, even if we beat them in week 18, will somehow have the tiebreaker over us. Andy, I don't know that if you did that research, but it's like if the Seahawks beat the Rams in week 18, but the Rams beat the Cardinals this Saturday, it's like the records will be even and the head to head will
Mm.
be even and the record in division will be even, but so through some sort of like fourth tiebreaker that has to do with strength of schedule, somehow the Rams have like a more difficult strength of schedule and they will win the division over the Seahawks in that case because of that crazy weird strength of schedule tiebreaker. So that was a bummer for me to learn. You know, I thought, okay, it's okay we lose to the Packers and Vikings and beat the Bears, right? Because like that's kind of
Mm.
expected. Yeah, we lose to the good teams, we beat the bad teams, and then we just need to take care of business against the Rams. Well, that's not true. The Seahawks need help. We need the Cardinals to beat the Rams, and we'll talk about that more later this episode. But I think the Cardinals already beat the Rams. I think it was in overtime. So Seahawks are not without hope. They took care of business tonight, and they got the W. They went on the road to Chicago in horrible elements, and they're getting out of there with a W. So just like you were saying, you went to the Minnesota game. You hoped it was close. You had a good time. You didn't actually get rained on all the time. Um, I was watching this Seahawks game with my father-in-law who's in town for the holidays, and he was just like, "Man, I cannot believe there are any fans there at all." Like, imagine if you were at that game, the Bears Seahawks game, and you're a Bears fan,
Oh
and you
yeah.
go and you're getting rained on the whole time, and your team loses 6-3. That'd be
Oh.
miserable, right?
Oh yeah, that would have been. I was surprised to hear the Boo Birds, as many as there were, and it looked like it was a pretty packed stadium. I mean, this team has nothing to fight for, and
Right.
those Chicago fans, they showed up for it, and yeah, they paid the price.
All right. So yeah, we'll talk more Seahawks, and next time you see us, we'll have more context with the division and what happens between the Cardinals Rams this weekend is going to be huge. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Looking elsewhere around the league, I was going to do like a news segment, but this week is so weird because we had Wednesday football, we had Thursday night football. We're recording on Thursday, so this is hopefully going to come out on Friday. And yeah, it's just kind of awkward timing with all the Christmas games and everything else. So just bear with us. This is going to be kind of a more casual episode, and yeah, it could be a little clunky, but just news that broke over the last week. What I wrote down: Jalen Hurts got concussed, and he's probably going to miss this week. So the Eagles, they dropped that game to the Commanders, which I know we're going to talk about more. So they haven't actually wrapped up that division, and the Eagles are going to be led by Kenny Pickett this weekend, I expect. And then elsewhere in that same division, CeeDee Lamb, who the Eagles play the Cowboys. So you have the Eagles without Jalen Hurts versus the Cowboys, who have just shut down CeeDee Lamb for the year with some sort of mysterious injury. I think they're just trying to save their star player in a season where they're already eliminated.
Yeah, those were the Jalen thing was weird. I think it was like just into the second quarter, and gets up a little shaky, blinking his eyes a lot, and the ref like stares him is face to face with them and stares him right in the eyes and says, "You got to go," and doesn't come back into the game after
Yeah.
that. I think so. Cool to see Kenny Pickett. I think this is a test to something we've both said before about having a backup quarterback that is a viable starter, and Kenny Pickett has shown that for not only this team but in the past with the Pittsburgh. So that was cool. That came out firing, and yeah, that was good for him.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
CD Lamb thing. I mean, he's been battling an injury. It's kind of like the whole Kamara thing. All these teams that have nothing to fight for, why are you putting out your star players out there? Why, like, unless there's a bonus involved or an incentive, a pay incentive, why are they out there if they're injured?
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. These guys are competitors. They only really work, 17 days a year. So they want to be out there. They want to earn those game checks, and they want to, all the fans that paid money to see them, they want to be out there. They want to put good tape on film when it comes to time for a new contract negotiation, season-long stats, putting good tape on film, things like that. But yeah, it makes total sense to just shut CG Lamb down, especially if he actually is dealing with something kind of serious. Totally get that. But yeah, that makes that game like impossible to pick. I don't know about you,
Right.
but it was like Eagles versus Cowboys. What, Kenny Pickett versus a Cowboys offense without CD Lamb? Like, I have no idea what to
Yeah.
do with that. I think the Eagles have a better overall roster. They're a better team. But yeah, the point spread is just all over the place with this breaking news. So, that's a real tricky one. The only other news item that I wanted to talk about isn't really news, but it is the debut of Michael Penix Jr. Andy,
Oh
we saw
yeah.
him on Sunday. They started Kirk Cousins every week of the season until now. They finally make the switch. We've been talking about it a lot, and it is against the New York Giants. And the point spread from Vegas was like 9 points, which is the most that a team has ever been favored who has a rookie quarterback in their debut. So that's like history already that the Falcons were projected to win by so much. What did they actually do? Well, they ended up winning by 27. So I think they covered that spread. But if you look at the not the point spread, the game logs, the actual box score, you wouldn't be too impressed. So Michael Penix Jr., he finished the game completing 18 of 27 passes, which is about 66%, for 202 passing yards, no real rushing yards, and one interception, no touchdowns. So on the surface, that looks bad. Drew Lock actually threw two more touchdown passes to the Falcons than Michael Penix Jr. did. He had two pick sixes. But if you actually watch the game and you look at the highlights, you have more context to that, and it's actually a pretty good first game. He was accurate for the most part. He really managed the game, and yes, his defense helped him out in big spots, but he had multiple drives that went the length of the field. And I got some interesting stats for you that I'm going to pull up here. Michael Penix Jr., 5 of his first 9 passes resulted in drops. So that's pretty crazy. And then his first target to Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, this was inside the 10-yard line. Kyle Pitts catches it at about the 3-yard line. And he, like, as soon as his hands come in contact with the ball, he, like, hot potatoes it to the defender, to, like, a cornerback behind him. It's the most insane play. If you haven't seen it, stop this podcast and go watch it because it's absolutely ludicrous. Kyle Pitts just gets the ball and then pitches it to a defender for an interception, and that was Michael Penix Jr.'s one interception. It was totally not his fault. It hit Pitts in the hands, and then Kyle Pitts does Kyle Pitts things. Unexplainable. But yeah, Michael Penix Jr., he took 0 sacks in the whole game against the Giants' defensive line, so that's pretty good. Pretty good. I don't know. And it certainly makes that division race much more interesting because the Bucks actually dropped one this week. So Falcons back in the driver's seat, Andy.
Yeah, the Bucks losing to the Cowboys was nuts, in my opinion. I mean, we kind of knew Atlanta was going to win, but Bucks to lose against battered up, nothing to play for Dallas. I don't know. That was a little shocking in my mind, but yeah, good for Penix, good for Atlanta for making the switch, I guess. And to not throw and only throw one interception compared to Kirk's like average of the last 4 games, like at least 2, like it's an improvement.
I guess so. Yeah. No, I mean, look, that box score doesn't look good, but honestly, it was an improvement. And
Right.
you can talk about the opponent, and they'll get a slightly more competitive opponent this week in the Washington Commanders, who have Marshawn Lattimore back and fully healthy. We're going to talk more about that later, but they're going to represent a much bigger challenge than the New York
Sure.
Giants.
Sure.
Andy, how about you take us over to the AFC and tell us something that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I'm going to start with talking about the Houston Texans. They had 2 rough games. They go to Arrowhead and they play the Chiefs. They lose by 8, and then they have to play on Christmas Day at home against the Baltimore Ravens. And if I remember, I didn't even finish the game because it was so bad. I think they only scored 2 points. Yep, yeah, they only scored 2 points,
That's
and
right.
that was really on the defense. That really wasn't even on the offense.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
only way you score 2 points is a safety.
Yeah. So, man, I'm calling out the Houston Texans. I'm saying they are the biggest playoff imposter on the AFC or on the NFC side. I think they don't. They are the team that doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs out of everybody because they are so beat up. CJ Stroud has taken a major fall. Granted he
Yeah.
doesn't have his wide receivers anymore, but like where is this captain? Where is this leader? Where's the offensive play calling to that we saw last year? How much of a dramatic shift has happened to the point where this is a completely new quarterback and offensive team that we're seeing now, and not in a good way.
I totally agree with you. I mean, both sides of the ball, right? Like getting absolutely embarrassed by the Ravens on Christmas. You lose 31-2. Like your offense isn't doing the job and your defense isn't doing the job either. And yes, they've lost some guys, right? Like remember when Stephon Diggs was on the Texans? Like that it feels like
Yeah,
forever ago. But they
right?
lost him for the season, and then they lost Tank Dell
Oh,
against the Chiefs. He scored that awesome touchdown, and then he dislocated his kneecap and all the muscles attached to one of the worst injuries of the year, probably. Absolutely terrible. And then against the Ravens, the first 5 minutes of the game, they're showing all the starters for all the teams, right? And it's Houston Texans, Nico Collins, John Mechie, Robert Woods. Like that's a far
yeah,
cry from where they started, but at the same time, like Nico Collins, John Mechie, Robert Woods, like you could do worse.
yeah,
Am I
yeah.
crazy? Like I don't know. Like they had one of the most loaded receiver rooms to start the year, and it's not as loaded, but like a solid veteran and Robert Woods and John Mechie's kind of like that shifty, point guard as of a wide
Mm-hmm.
receiver. Um, I don't know. There's still not a good explanation, I guess, is what I'm saying. Despite the injuries, there's still not a good enough explanation as to why this team is so bad and why this team has won so many games that they have locked up a playoff spot. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to be looking forward to that. I am going to be looking forward to picking the other team that they
Oh
play
yeah,
in the playoffs. It's right now. It's probably looking like the Pittsburgh Steelers, being that top
4 or
wild card
5.
team. Is
Yeah,
that right? I haven't looked at the
yep,
playoff picture in a
yep.
bit, but
That's how
yeah,
it sits right now. Yep.
last podcast episode, I said that the Steelers would not win another game after losing, and that's looking better and better. We'll see, we'll see. But if they get the Texans in the first round, that could blow up that take of mine because I will pick the Steelers if they go into Houston in round one.
Sure, sure.
All right. And you know what? This is good. This is a good little transition here because I wanted to talk about Anthony Richardson. And if we're talking about like why are the Texans already locked into the playoffs? Like they're so bad. Well, it's because the rest of their division is bad. And I want to talk about the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson, they went up against the Tennessee Titans and they won. Good for them. You know, a little golf clap for beating the Titans, I guess. But this is an absolutely ridiculous box score, Andy. I don't know if you have seen it yet. Anthony Richardson, he completed 7 out of 11 pass attempts in the game. So he only attempted 11 passes. That went for 131 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That's ludicrous. To only attempt 11 passes in a game, like my overreaction is that Anthony Richardson is not a good quarterback. Like he's a bad quarterback. And I don't want to say he's a bad football player because the dude is you can tell by looking at him like he's built for this. He's built for the NFL. But right now he is not a good quarterback. Like he's genuinely bad. And yeah, like no one's really scared of this Colts offense. Jonathan Taylor had one of the best games of his life, but that's not how you win in 2024. Like
No,
it's so bad.
no, no, not banking on your best player to have his best game every week. Just reading some stats here. He's completing 47.7%. He has 1,800 passing yards. He was benched for a little bit, but still not even 2,000. He's not going to have. He might not finish the year with 2,000 passing yards, which is crazy. And
Some running backs will finish with more rushing yards than he will finish with passing yards.
That's crazy. Even Bryce Young has more passing yards.
Oh my
than
God!
that.
Yeah, last stat that I
God.
have. So Anthony Richardson attempted 11 passes. Jonathan Taylor ran the ball 29 times in that game.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. JT saved me in my semifinal matchup. So,
Well, there you go. Yeah.
I'll take it. But I totally agree with you here. There's a reason I don't trust any of the pass catchers for the Colts is because I don't trust their quarterback. So in fantasy and as a Colts fan, my favorite team in the AFC is the Colts, and so I love that they win. I love that they're still in contention for the playoffs, but I do not trust Anthony Richardson moving forward at all.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Like the Colts are literally trying to hide from. They're trying to hide their quarterback. They're trying to win despite their passing game, and that's just crazy to me in 2024 for a team that's trying to compete for a playoff spot. I'm gonna take us on over to the NFC, and I want to talk about that Commanders-Eagles game. Okay, that game was hype. That was one of the greatest games of the year. It's just so back and forth. The momentum swings, the big plays. Like this game had everything. It got chippy. It was a divisional rivalry. My take is, the commentators and the national media, they were just heaping praise onto the Commanders for beating the Kenny Pickett-led Eagles in like the last 10 seconds. Like you needed the last 10 seconds to beat the Kenny Pickett-led Eagles. Like my take from this is that this game didn't matter for the Commanders. Like I don't know what this does for you if you're the Washington Commanders. It's not helping you win the division. It's not, you can't really lose that wild card spot. I know they haven't locked it up yet, but like, I just don't really get what and like, they're hugging each other in the locker room after the win. They're crying. They're, oh my God, we just beat the Eagles. Like, that's a little silly to me. Like, Jalen Hurts, he got hurt in the first quarter and left the game. Like, this game just has a giant asterisk on it. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson, one of their defensive leaders, he left the game near the beginning of the second half. he got ejected for the great sin of getting punched in the face. One of the Commanders players punched CJ Gardner-Johnson in the face. The ref throws a flag and he points to CJ Gardner-Johnson and says, "No, you deserved it, and I'm going to flag you." And then he got ejected. I'm not kidding. That was his second
Wow.
personal foul. He must have said something about someone's mom or something. I don't know. But this game just has a giant asterisk on it, and good for the Commanders. But like, geez, you almost lost to their field goal kicker and Kenny Pickett in a shootout,
Sure.
and you needed the last 10 seconds to pull off some miracle play to Jamison Crowder, who's somehow still in the league. I don't know, Andy.
That
I know you feel differently, so why don't you talk about the Commanders?
that was crazy. I didn't realize Jameson Crowder was still in the league. I look over to Marissa and I'm like, how is he still on that team? Like, I know he did like a circus around the league and he came back, but he's still there. Like, that's crazy to me. I mean, they needed the win. Seattle, I know they just won, but like they need that. I kind of see your point. They didn't need to win, but they did. Anytime you beat a divisional opponent, that especially when they have a better record than you, I think it deserves a little bit of a hype in the locker room. So I'm not gonna bash them too much for that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the minute Jalen goes down, the Commanders are like, "Oh, we need to press on." Like, you have to be communicating on the sideline. We have to step on the gas. Like, this is our opportunity.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, they barely won. They also shouldn't have beat the Bears, and they barely won off of a fail Mary. So like, they've been getting lucky, and we kind of have a similar we're focusing on the same team here with our NFC overreaction. I think down the stretch they are going to be very dangerous. I hear what you're saying. They're getting really lucky as of throughout the season, but when I say down the stretch, I'm not even really talking about this year. I'm talking about the future. I'm talking about next year and
Ooh.
coming down the line, because as much as I love Philadelphia, I don't know how much they can sustain this. Like, there's obviously some type of rift going on there on the offensive side. Jalen is spotty at times. Like, I feel like Jaden Daniels is like honing in his power, and then next year and maybe a little bit into this playoffs, it's
Yeah.
just all this experience is just going to help him propel him to the future and to succeed into the future. And I'm really excited about what the Commanders are about to become, because they have just been sitting in the dumps for so long,
Yeah.
and I'm ready to see them rise to the occasion.
Well, I love where you went with that take, because I can definitely get on board if you're talking about future years. I think the Eagles are kind of an older team, and the Commanders are so young and exciting. And free agent wide receivers like T. Higgins, like Deontay Johnson, you know where where they want to go? You know who they want to play for? They want to catch passes from Jaden Daniels, and they want to go to Washington for the first time in forever, right? Like, no one wanted to go there. That was the place that had to like basically pay a tax for sucking. Like yeah, okay, this is your going rate, but just to make sure that you choose us, we're gonna need to pay even more. That's not gonna be the case anymore, because players are going to want to play with them because they are on the rise, and it's a good vibe. And I love what Dan Quinn, the head coach, is doing there. The defense is locked in. Frankie Louvu, the middle inside linebacker, he's a phenomenal team leader. Yeah, I totally love that take. But just to reemphasize what I'm saying about 2024 and the following playoffs, they're pretty much locked into that 7 seed, no? Like, you have those
Yeah.
great wild card teams from the NFC North, the Vikings or Lions, whichever one that is, and then the Packers. Like, the Commanders are definitely going to wind up being that 7 seed, which means they're going to play the 2 seed. Who's the 2 seed? It's the
Phil-
Eagles. So
Philadelphia.
they're going to
Yeah.
have to have a rematch in Philadelphia, and Jalen Hurts will presumably be healthy for that game. So, like, you can't tell me you're picking the Commanders. Like, I don't know anyone outside of DC who's picking the Commanders in that playoff game. So, like, I don't know. This was nice. This was fun. And hopefully it drags down the point spread enough for me to take the Eagles to cover. But because I'm just not putting much stock in this last
Sure.
10-second magic where you finally overcame a team that already lost their star quarterback. Let's move on and get to the part of the program where we eliminate an NFL team. Okay, we are. Oh boy, so what is this week? I know some week 17 games have already come and gone, but technically we have had 16 weeks. So we need to eliminate our 16th team. On the screen, you should see the logos of all the teams that we've already eliminated.
Right.
And we need to add one more to that group. We have 3 more teams that we need to eliminate. All the other teams are playoff bound, Andy. So I'm looking at the AFC, and I think we only have one more team that we could potentially eliminate from that side of the playoffs. And then the other side is like this Seahawks-Rams business, and it's the Bucks-Falcons business, which I feel like all of that kind of still needs to shake out. Andy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I feel like it's gonna kind of do it for us in a way. We're gonna see what the Rams do against the Cardinals on Saturday. We're gonna see what Atlanta does against the Commanders on Sunday night. So I kind of want to just stay away from the NFC and focus on the AFC.
All right. Yeah, I agree. And that would mean eliminating the Indianapolis Colts, who I just talked about how unimpressive Anthony Richardson was, but they did win. They did beat the Tennessee Titans. And this might be, I don't know, I'll need to, don't fact check this, but this could be the first time we've ever eliminated a team coming off a win. We typically like to allow these teams to eliminate themselves, but just with so few weeks left and the situations being what they are, we got to eliminate the Colts despite the win, despite the easy schedule, despite the likelihood that they're going to finish 9-8. They just don't have the tiebreakers that they need. And the only team whose spot they could take, the Broncos, well, we're not going to project the Broncos to lose out. I mean, come on. Bo Nix
No.
wouldn't do that to us, right, Andy?
No, he wouldn't. They do play the Bengals and the Chiefs. The Broncos do these last two, and the Colts play the Giants and the Jaguars. So the Colts definitely have the easier matchup, but like you just said, I mean, they needed every yard from Jonathan Taylor. They needed every touchdown to beat the Titans last week, and if that doesn't happen again these next 2 weeks, I think they might drop one of those. So, and I don't see the Broncos losing out. So,
yeah, for the Broncos, this week is pretty interesting. It's pretty spicy. I think it's one of the better games of the week. Broncos, Bengals. Bengals are not mathematically eliminated yet, and the team that they need to take down, they play. So the Broncos-Bengals game's got a lot of spice to it. Unfortunately, for all of these teams in the hunt category, the Chiefs locked up the number 1 seed with a win on Christmas. So that Week 18 game against the Broncos, the Chiefs will probably rest a lot of their starters. Mm-hmm. So that's huge for the Broncos, and that's devastating to all the teams that need the Broncos to lose. So that's just another wrinkle there. That just makes it even easier to eliminate the Colts.
Yeah.
Colts, you're done.
You're gone.
Get out of here. Let's update the listeners on our Guillotine League. There were 3 left. Andy, you were one of them. You snuck by. You've about 10 points was the difference between you and our 3rd place finisher, Perfect Pete. He was perfect until now. But even then he finished in the money. So this guy just can't take an L, Pete did great. I don't think he's ever done a guillotine league before, and he was a great sport in joining this league, and he killed it for the most part. Andy, he scored 150 points, unlike last week where someone lost by like 80. He only lost by 10. He had a great team, scored 150 points, just happened to be the third highest score.
Right. Third out of three.
Right,
So,
right.
Yep. Sad to see him go, but internally, I am very grateful that made it to the top two, and now it's me and my buddy Andrew going at it head to head.
Yeah, Andy versus Andrew.
I know. Andrew versus Andrew.
Right, right. Technically. But yeah, shout out to Pete. I mean, looking at his roster, like I said, they scored a lot of points. You know, it's like, what can you do? Everyone's roster's loaded when you're in a 3-team league. He started
Right.
Josh Allen. I think that is probably what did this team in. Yeah, Allen probably carried him these last few weeks, and this week against the Patriots, somehow only scored like 12 fantasy points. So that's tough. What are you gonna do?
What are you going to do?
Moment of silence for Pete.
The tribe has spoken.
He gone.
All right. Championship week next week. Andy versus Andrew. Hopefully, Andy can win our listener league. If not, one of our listeners will, which is pretty exciting. So,
Right.
yeah. No, I'm very jealous. I was like 5th out or something like that. So yeah, Andy's been doing work over there, holding it down.
Yep.
All right, Andy, what do you say we flip the page? We look forward to week 17, which is already, some games have already happened. We celebrated Christmas. We caught some football, I think, but we got a lot of games to go still. Some on Saturday, a lot on Sunday, and one on Monday. I'm looking at Packers at Vikings. That's going to be an awesome game.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be awesome.
All this hype about can the Vikings take the 1 seed from the Lions? Well, yeah, like the Vikings got to take care of business against the Packers first. Come on.
Right.
I say we pick this game, Andy.
Ooh.
I will give you some time to think about it while I talk. I'm picking the Vikings because they're at home, but like I'm not super confident. It's a real toss-up. I think both of these teams are Super Bowl contenders. You heard that right. I think they're both Super Bowl contenders. I don't care, who has to travel where in the postseason. Like on any given day, I think either one of these teams can beat anybody. But I believe in Sam Darnold. And I believe in the Vikings at home. I believe in Justin Jefferson. So give me the Vikings, but it's really close. I like the Packers a lot too.
Yeah, the Packers are really coming on right when they need to. I mean, the Packers are 4-1 against their last 5, losing against Detroit. Vikings are 5-0 in their last 5. I don't know. I kind of want to lean the Packers here just solely based on Josh Jacobs and their running game. I mean,
we got to talk about Josh Jacobs.
This guy is destroying it, and Aaron Jones just isn't to the level that Minnesota needs him to be, and that's a funny, like, quirky revenge game thing going on. And seeing Justin Jefferson in person in Seattle, he is a very skilled player, and he knows how to catch the football and is able to catch the football in really tight spaces. But I think a lot of that is luck. Like, Sam Darnold is slinging it, but man, like, if Justin Jefferson's skill level was notched down just half a notch or something, I don't think he completes those catches that he gets. And I don't know. I think Green Bay can maybe win with more solid plays and more fortitude rather than the extra little skill level that Minnesota might have, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I think this game's really going to come down to Josh Jacobs versus, and this is going to sound weird, but Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator for the Vikings. how is he gonna move his chess pieces to stop what no team seems to have been able to stop lately? I mean, Josh Jacobs embarrassed the Seahawks defense, who's been on a tear, before and after. The Seahawks defense doesn't
Right.
look great, but they could not stop Josh Jacobs to save their life. And I think Brian Flores has got to come up with something to stop. I mean, it's so obvious, right? But you can't just throw
Right.
numbers at it, apparently. Like Josh Jacobs is that good. So we'll see what Blake Cashman, their middle inside linebacker, he's got a heck of a job to do this week. And yeah, so you're on the Packers side. I kind of flip flopped around. I'm going to stick with the Vikings, but yeah, should be a great one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
The next game I wanted to talk about is a matchup between the guy who won the Heisman Trophy and the guy who should have won the Heisman Trophy this last year. I'm talking about the Washington Commanders versus the Atlanta Falcons. We got Jaden Daniels versus Michael Penix Jr. What a sneaky fun matchup that we weren't sure we'd ever get, and we're getting it in
Right.
their rookie year. Falcons need a win, right? If they drop this game, which they're underdogs by 4.5, if the Falcons drop this game, then they hand control of that division back to the Bucks. So this is absolutely critical. And on the Commanders side, well, you still need to win to shore up that wild card spot, and the Eagles kind of left the door open to win the division. If the Eagles lose out and the Commanders win out, I don't think that'll happen. I've already talked about that, but this game has all sorts of playoff implications. So, Andy, let's pick this game as well. Where are you at here?
Oh yeah, I'm going all Washington. I mean, Jane Daniels is playing on another level, and it's Penix's second game. It's hard to trust a rookie coming on his, even though he come off a win, just playing his second game in the league.
Yeah, no, it's so different than the Giants' defense that he faced. That team has been dead for like a month. Like, it's so different. And now the Commanders' defense has Marshawn Lattimore coming in. They acquired him at the trade deadline. We talked about him being probably the best pure player to move teams at the trade deadline, and he was injured at the time. The Commanders acquire him, let him get healthy. He is healthy, and he battled with A.J. Brown all last week. He's going to do the same thing with Drake London this week. And so if you have Drake London covered, where else are you going to go? Like Kyle Pitts? Like, I hope not.
Not Kyle Pitts. No.
So yeah,
No.
I'm taking the Commanders as well. But yeah, that spread is a lot closer than I thought. Just like the spread
Yeah.
was higher than I thought against the Giants. Like, wow, a rookie quarterback in his debut still has to cover 9 points. Vegas thinks this game will be pretty close too, 4.5. So
Well,
I
hope
don't know.
so.
Maybe the Falcons can lean on Bijan the way that the Packers lean on Josh Jacobs. Bijan's been great. I don't know. We'll see.
I think it's going to be a big Bijan game.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be Bijan versus Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu. So
Yeah.
that's going to be one to watch for sure. I love it. Was there another game on the schedule, Andy, that you wanted to talk about here?
No, not really. I think the last one that kind of piques my interest, besides the obvious checking up on the Rams and Cardinals, but Jets Bills. I know the Jets have nothing to play for, but Aaron Rodgers is like supposedly hurt and he's playing through it. Bills had to squeak through a win against the Patriots last week. Bills are 7-0 at home, so maybe I'm talking up the chimney here, but I don't know. Josh Allen and the Bills, they have me. Josh Allen is trying to fight for his MVP, so that's what I'm really curious to see. Is Lamar has had 2 great performances back to back, and he is not stepping off the gas. So where Josh Allen kind of did, and I'm curious to see if he bounces back.
Yeah, man. I mean, this whole MVP race is just so interesting. A lot of people, national media, were saying it was wrapped up. Give it to Josh Allen now. Well, he's struggled to beat the Patriots, and Lamar Jackson, on a nationally broadcasted via Netflix audience, just absolutely pantsed the Houston Texans. So,
Right.
yeah, it should be super interesting. I mean, give me the Bills.
Oh yeah, give me
Like
the
what are we
Bills all
talking
day.
about? Yeah.
Yeah. Give me the Bills all day.
But
Sure.
yeah, no, fun matchup there for sure. What do you say we, as the fantasy flow, we dive into some fantasy football?
Let's do it.
All right, man. We got some players that we're helping you flow into your lineups, and if you're playing week 17, that means you're in your championship, right? That means you're competing. Maybe you're in the championship game. Maybe you're in that third, fourth place matchup. You're trying to get in the money. Uh, we got some advice, some last minute advice that's going to help take you over the top, okay? This is what we're talking about. I'm going to start it off. Guys that came to my mind, like Baker Mayfield, other quarterbacks, it just felt too obvious. Like they're probably owned, and
Sure.
I don't know. I do have a tight end though, who happens to be unowned in our league. So this is not
Okay.
advice for you. This is advice for the listeners. This is advice for everyone. I'm talking about Chig Okonkwo, tight end for the Tennessee Titans. He's going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the hyper beatable Jaguars defense. And I want to share with you a box score from that Titans Colts game that we've talked about a lot. I talked about Anthony Richardson's box score. Now I want to talk about Mason Rudolph. He threw the ball 34 times. He connected with Chig Okonkwo 9 times for 81 yards.
Yeah.
Nine catches for 81 yards from the tight end spot. No touchdowns. Like, I feel like he's due for a touchdown. So making this switch to Mason Rudolph from Will Levis, clearly he loves that security blanket of a tight end. And Chig Okonkwo is unowned pretty much everywhere. And if this is what we're going to get, I know they're starting Mason Rudolph again. So I would expect
Sure.
similar levels of success if they're basically going to roll with this same strategy, roll with the same quarterback, going up against another beatable defense in the Jags. So I'm putting in Chig Okonkwo in my lineup in my league.
Sure. I hear you. I'm all about it. I'll stick on the tight end trend. I just saw that this feller was injured a little bit so far at the beginning of the week, so it doesn't help my take, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going with Tucker Kraft. I think the Minnesota defense is going to really limit the wide receivers on Green Bay, and I think it's going to be a Josh Jacobs battle as well as Tucker Kraft getting into the end zone. So I'm flowing in Tucker Kraft pending any injury. I feel like just kind of with Chiggy, I feel like Tucker's due. He hasn't really caught touchdown, hasn't really been involved as of lately, and something about this matchup is just screaming Tucker Kraft.
I like that. It feels like it's not scientific, like it's not good analysis, but saying that a player is due actually, I feel like has more weight than it seems like on the surface. Because what we're talking about is a situation resulting in success but not getting into the end zone. And what we're basically talking about is positive regression, like the result of an offense like returning to the mean. Like what that means is this player like can't keep getting unlucky. So we're just basically betting on the law of averages to work itself out. So that seems like a really good bet. I like that a lot. Similar logic that I use with Chig Okonkwo. And we'll talk more about that Packers-Vikings game a little later. I want to talk about Amir Abdullah, running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. Last week against the Jaguars, this offense, the rule of thumb has been Brock Bowers and no one else, but these two running backs are actually producing. Alexander Madison's the other one. He kind of sucks, so I don't want to talk about him, and I'm not starting him. I want to talk about Amir Abdullah. He's old man on campus. I think he's 31 years old, which is ridiculous for a running back, but he is getting all the work in the passing game. Last week, Amir Abdullah caught 5 passes for 50 yards, and he carried the ball 7 times for 38 yards, which is over 5 yards a carry, while Alexander Madison only had 2 yards a carry. So Amir Abdullah, he had over 5 yards of carry and a rushing touchdown. The week before that, he didn't have a rushing touchdown, but he had a receiving touchdown. So they're just using him in these dump-off scenarios all the time. It's like this Raiders offense is so bad. Whenever they get into 3rd and long, it almost always results in a dump-off to Amir Abdullah. And half the time, he gets them the first down because he's just being really dynamic and he's catching everything that comes his way. He's very safe. If you're in any sort of PPR league, I think you could do a whole lot worse than Amir Abdullah. I think he's worth consideration.
Sure. Yeah, that's a dirty name, but
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I hear you. There. It's hard to shy away from that production. I'm gonna go quarterback Bo Nix. I don't know. Maybe that is too obvious. Maybe that isn't. He should be owned at this point if he isn't. But he's going against the Bengals, and as we know, the Bengals secondary and defense is just not very good. And what's crazy is, since he's actually favored in this game, it's in Cincinnati, but I don't know. I just feel like, one, why is Cincinnati favored when we all know the Broncos are a better team on both sides of the ball? And two, if they want to win this game, which they have to, they're going to do everything in their power to win. It's going to have to rely on Bo Nix, and I like this start. I want my quarterback to be going against the Bengals on a every week if I can.
All right, last player that I'm flowing into my lineup this week. I have no box scores to cite, no logic to throw in here. This is just a pure hope and a prayer, but I'm putting him into my lineup. And, you can cite the law of averages. You can pray to the fantasy gods. I'm putting Cooper Kupp into my lineup, despite the fact that he has sucked for the last, 3 or 4 weeks in a row. It has been so much Puka Nacua. I am praying that the Arizona Cardinals catch on to that and they start giving Puka Nacua the love and attention that he deserves from a defensive standpoint. I just think Cooper Kupp is so talented. He's clearly healthy. He's playing, like, his snap percentage hasn't gone anywhere. But, it's just kind of insane how little production that Cooper Kupp has put up. And I think that it's going to right itself this week against a vulnerable Cardinals defense in a game that the Rams could clinch a playoff spot this week if they handle business. I think they're going to go Cooper Kupp's way. It was week 14 where he had 5 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. That was a 20-point fantasy week. That was just 3 weeks ago. There's really no explanation why his production has dipped. And I'm just hoping that it comes back, man. Please come back, Cooper Kupp.
Right. Yeah, I think some of that just has to do with the coaching staff realizing that Puka can make the better plays.
I don't know. I think that their offense is best when they're both going, and Cooper Kupp hasn't gotten going.
Last guy I'm going to mention really quickly is just Jalen Tolbert for the Dallas Cowboys. As we mentioned before, CeeDee Lamb is out for the year. Cooper Rush has to throw it to somebody, so I'm banking that Jalen Tolbert is probably going to be the best pass catcher for the Dallas Cowboys this week against the Eagles.
Yeah, no, CeeDee Lamb is huge. That ball has to go somewhere. We've talked about how Cooper Rush is very competent back there. This is not a dead offense by any means. You could throw in Rico Dowdle too. It's just a really tough matchup for a running game. So yeah, I kind of like that Jalen Tolbert pick. Very sneaky.
Or Jake Ferg. Yeah, I was between him and Jake Ferg. I think they're both pretty good starts, but if you need one at the wide receiver spot, I think he would be a good pick.
Alrighty. If you flow players into your lineup, you got to flow players out of your lineup. So this is some advice from us to you of players not to start. And I'm going to start it off going back to that Packers-Vikings game. I'm talking about Jordan Love. It's been a long time since Jordan Love was actually a top 12 fantasy quarterback on a given week. They keep winning these games because he's a game manager, kind of in the same way that Russell Wilson back in his Seahawks glory days I didn't like calling him a game manager. I liked calling him a win manager because he manages wins. And that's what Jordan Love has been doing. But it doesn't translate for fantasy because it's just Josh Jacobs. It's a little bit of the tight end here and there. And it's a lot of great defense. It's a lot of turnovers. And yeah, the production from the wide receivers is not consistent enough to start Jordan Love. Definitely not against the Vikings.
Sure. That's a good point. I like that a lot. I'm going to go quarterback here. I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers. People have been loving Aaron Rodgers as a waiver pickup these last couple of weeks just because he has been slinging it. He's been throwing touchdown passes. He hasn't thrown an interception since he played the Seahawks back in the beginning of the month, in the beginning of December. So he's been doing really well lately, but I think this is kind of a trap game going against the Bills in Buffalo. I have zero confidence in the Jets and in Aaron Rodgers this game.
That's an interesting name, yeah, because the Bills have allowed a bunch of points the last 2 weeks before the Patriots game, right? They allowed 30-something, 40-something to the Rams and Lions.
Right.
No, it was 40-something in both games, I think, and then the Patriots, only gave up 21. So, yeah, I could see how people could be targeting that matchup. But, yeah, there's so much weirdness going on with the Jets right now.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers talking about – I mean, we could have included it in the news segment, but it feels like an off-season discussion, so maybe we'll hold on to it. But some crazy stuff is going on with the New York Jets, the owner and reporters talking about how the owner's grandkids are, like, influencing decisions.
Right.
Yeah, that feels like an off-season discussion, but yeah, stay away from the Jets. That feels like a great blanket advice.
I've been getting a lot of questions about do I start Aaron Rodgers this week, so
really?
I figured I give my input here on the show. Yeah.
All right, I like it. Another player not to start, just like we have to include Bo Nix in our flow in segment every week. I think we should just include this player in our flow out segment every week. I'm talking about Kyle Pitts.
Yes, yes. Let's do it. Just an automatic bid to
flow him out. This dude sucks. You cannot start him at all, any format, any league size, going up against the Commanders' defense. I know that this offense has been rejuvenated with a new quarterback, but no, this matchup is tough, and don't start Kyle Pitts.
This dude, boo-boo.
Who's next?
I'm going to tight end on the other side. I'm going Zach Ertz. It just seems like a weird decline going down on his name and with the Commanders. I don't really know what's going on. I haven't watched a whole lot of it, to be honest, but looking at his track record, he's obviously hurt. He's an old man Ertz, but it's hard to trust him after all this low production been going on. So I'm flowing Zach Ertz out for the Commanders against the Falcons.
Yeah, very weird. Like, the Commanders have nobody to throw to, which is why Zach Ertz has been kind of near the top of the box score every week, because it's just like, who are they throwing to? But lately, he's been connecting Jaden Daniels with De'Ami Brown, with Olamide Zaccheaus. Like they're finding ways to get other guys involved, and it's not Zach Ertz. So
Jamison Crowder, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what is going on?
All right, the last name I got here is a little spicy, and it totally relies on Jalen Hurts not being in. If it's Kenny Pickett in for the Eagles, I'm scared to start Devonta Smith in championship week. That is just, I don't know, man. Maybe all the routes are underneath, and Kenny Pickett, they just play hyper conservative. But man, I just feel like if you're going into a game with Kenny Pickett, unlike where you swap out mid game, if you go into a game knowing that Kenny Pickett is your starting quarterback, how are you not just handing it off to Saquon like all the time?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I'm scared of the Eagles receiving core. A.J. Brown, I get it. Like, if he's on your team, you probably got to start him. But Devonta Smith's probably on that bubble, and I'm telling you, if Jalen Hurts is not playing, which I don't expect him to play, I wouldn't start Devonta Smith versus the Cowboys defense.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I like that one. Kenny Pickett can also use his legs, which he will probably do. The Cowboys pass rush is still formidable, so I could easily see Kenny Pickett getting out of the pocket and running for first downs, like you said, handing it off to Saquon. Hell, dumping it off to Saquon is probably going to be happening a lot too. So I kind of with you there. I like that take.
Yeah. We're not including this game in our next segment, I don't believe. But watch out for the Cowboys, man. Like last Sunday, or was it the Monday night game? I don't remember. But it was just like the Bucs have everything to play for. If they win out, they're in the playoffs, and the Cowboys are already eliminated. And then the Cowboys, they just take Baker Mayfield's lunch. And it was crazy. Like, that defense was balling out. So watch out for the Cowboys, seriously.
They're fighting for their coach, and you got to respect it in one way or another. So, yeah, I totally agree. My last guy is also a little spicy. I'm going J.K. Dobbins. So just setting up the scene here, Gus Edwards is already ruled out for the Chargers, and J.K. Dobbins is coming off of IR. He has been set to return to practice. There's not for sure if he's going to play or not, but I would think they're going to do everything in their power to make sure he goes out there, because otherwise they're banking on a third stringer rookie. So I think they're going to try to push him out there, and I don't know if I know he's been productive. I know he's been efficient out there, but this guy is riddled with injuries. This guy has a huge track record of being injured. I wouldn't be surprised if they rush him out there, they push him too much, and then he gets hurt mid-game. Like, you never want to predict somebody getting hurt, but if you're going to pick one guy, I feel like banking on, betting on J.K. Dobbins getting hurt mid-game is kind of in that realm. So I just want to, if he is playing, I'm not starting him. I'm taking him out for a week, and if you do have a Week 18 matchup, I'm going to take that information and use it for Week 18.
That's so dangerous.
Right.
Starting a guy just coming off of IR in your championship week. He could only get like a fraction of the workload. Like, they could be working him back. We just don't know. So
that's true. Yeah, that's another good point. That's another great point.
Very scary. Hey, just wanted to jump in here real quick to remind you all about our partnership with BETSTAMP. If you're ready to take your sports betting to the next level and you want to support our show, we highly recommend signing up for your next sports book through the show's Sign Up Expert link in the description. This will allow you to take advantage of many new user offers available. And don't forget to bet responsibly by tracking all of your bets and getting yourself the best odds through the BetStamp app. Back to the show!
Let's go. 4-pack, baby.
All right, the Fantasy Flow 4-pack of game picks against the spread. Last week, we did not do well. Part of that we can blame on the Philadelphia Eagles and the Jalen Hurts injury. We picked the Eagles to cover there, and they failed to do so. It's kind of out of our hands, okay? Sure. Some of the other games, though, we just straight up missed. Bo Nix got to get back. He's got to get back in the saddle. What's going on there? Okay? I'm not picking it against the Bengals, but I'm calling them out, okay, bro?
Sure.
You got to have our back.
Let's do it.
Let's go. I am starting off with the Carolina Panthers. So I got two teams who are road dogs. This is very unlike me, but I'm going off script. Okay, I'm trying to stay unpredictable. Okay, Vegas, you can't get me. I got two unpredictable picks here, and I got Panthers +8 going on the road into Tampa Bay against the Bucs. Okay, we all just assumed that the Bucs were going to win last week, and they didn't. Last time the Bucs played the Panthers, they needed overtime to beat the Panthers. I think it was the Chuba Hubbard lost a fumble in overtime, and the Bucs ended up winning. These Panthers you can't overlook them. Okay, this feels like a trap game, and I'm getting 8 points, so you can lose by a touchdown and still cover. So give me the Panthers.
Great pick. Yeah, that game is going to be close. Divisional game.
Yeah.
8-point spread. That's an easy pick. I'm going with another really easy pick. Detroit Lions are only favored by 3.5 points, at least the spread that I'm looking at, against the 49ers on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
It's in Santa Clara, but who cares? The Niners are just boo. They're somewhere in fairyland, and the Lions are fighting for that one spot, and they are going to throw everything at it to make sure that they remain atop. So give me the Lions to win by a little bit more than a field goal against a fairyland 49ers team.
Yeah,
that's easy.
It's like the 49ers have been on a bad trip for this entire second half of the year.
That is a great explanation. Yes, totally.
I had the Lions in my notes until you sent me your notes, so I had to go find a different game. And like I said, I have another road underdog, and I'm picking the Saturday night game. I'm picking the Arizona Cardinals plus 6.5 against the Rams. Look, we Seahawks fans need you, Cardinals. Okay, we need you. Marvin Harrison, come on, baby. Kyler Murray, come on.
Let's go, Cardinals. Let's go.
At least keep it interesting. 6.5. I mean, last time the Cardinals played the Rams, it went to overtime, and the Cardinals pulled the thing out, okay? The Cardinals beat the Rams first time they played. Now they're scheduled to play again, and the Cardinals are 6.5 dogs. What's up with that? What's up with that? Come on. Come on. All right.
I love it. I love it. I'm going with another road dog. I'm going with those giddy up Broncos. Let's go. Let's go Broncos. They are dogs. I don't know why. Maybe it's a trap. I don't care. I'm following into it. I'm saying Broncos win. I'm saying Broncos win. And they're dogs by 3.5. It's just crazy that the Broncos are not favored in this matchup in my mind. So let's go Broncos. That's my pick.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel warranted to have the Broncos favored against to have the Bengals favored against the Broncos like that. I don't get it. I get you like Joe Burrow, the Bengals, but like this Denver defense is for real, and as long as Bo Nix takes care of the ball, I like their chances. At least keep within a field goal. I mean, come on.
Sure.
My opponent in my fantasy championship has Joe Burrow. So how about a nice pick six or something?
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah.
Pat Surtain?
Couple sacks.
Pat Surtain, you out there? Let's do it. All right, and then you can just rest in week 18. Okay, let's bring it.
You listening, Broncos?
Yeah. Another 4-0 week. Wow. Yeah, we did it, Andy.
Let's go. Let's go.
All right, this has been a blast. Merry Christmas to all. To all a good night.
Merry Christmas. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, until next time. Thanks a ton for making it to the end of the episode. You're a real one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That's a free, easy way to support the show, and it really helps us out. And leave us your comments down below if you're on YouTube, or send in your questions at thefantasyflowpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.